here's the next deck I have for you guys, and this is the Bant deck. Bant is defined by using these colors. It's kind of an allied color here, green, white, and blue. So yeah, using green, white, and blue is basically defining colors here of we call these allied colors. So yeah, I have Seaside Citadel, which is a great land for adding all three of these colors. Then I have Bant Panorama, which can let me search for forest, plains, or island. Those are the different colors of this deck. Swords of Plowshare is very, very efficient removal. 1 mana, remove target creature in game, and gains life equal to its power. This deck has a lot of very efficient creatures and spells. Birds of Paradise, of course, 1 mana, tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Very, very useful. Used in a lot of competitive decks. Mystic Snake, I like this card, it's very efficient, and yeah, 4 mana, 2/2. When it's flash. This line basically means it has flash, and then it comes into play. You counter target spell. So 2 mana is the traditional counter spell cost right there, and then 2 mana for 2/2. But I like the fact that it's wrapped all in one body, especially considering these days that they nerfed counter spell. I believe 10 years ago with cancel. The counter spell was considered too powerful because it's only 2 mana, and then they nerfed it a decade ago, I believe, and they reprinted they printed a card called Cancel instead, which is basically the same thing, counter target spell, but for 3 mana instead, which means that effectively hard counter spells are 3 mana, which basically means this is 1 mana for 2/2, 1 green mana for 2/2, which is pretty good. Okay, Rock Swarmark, 3 mana for 3/4 lifelink. Very nice, basic, efficient card. Like it. Sun the Last Troll is 4 mana for 4/4, can't be countered, can't be targeted spells or abilities your opponents control. So this is hexproof. Same as there's hexproof right here, and 2 mana to regenerate, very, very difficult to kill. Very nice body as well, 4 mana for 4/4. Geist of Saint Traft, 3 mana 2/2 hexproof, which basically means your opponents can't target it, and when it attacks, you get a 4/4 angel token tapped in attacking just for that combat phase, which means that this thing, if it goes unblocked, you can keep on making 4/4 angels when you attack. So that's I mean just once every combat, but that's fine, right? And then they die after, but it's still pretty good for considering this is only 3 mana. Kitchen Finks, one of the best creatures ever, 3 mana for 3/2. You gain 2 life, but actually 4 life because it comes back into play again. Persist, so when it dies, it comes back into play with a -1/-1 counter on it. So very, very versatile, useful creature. Absorb, this is counter spell, except you gain 3 life. But since counter spells are essentially hard counter spells are 3 mana anyways, this one just adds a white mana. You gain 3 life from it. I would consider this a very, very well costed counter spell. Yeah, this Healing Salve is originally 3 mana, but this card was printed at a time when the original counterspell was considered at a good power level. But now it's considered too powerful, which means this card got more powerful. Is undercosted actually. Sunscape Master. This is card maybe not a lot of people know about is this card from Invasion here, 2 mana, but you can use the allied colors here. That's why I have it here. They make use of the allied colors. So if you use this one, creatures control at +2/+2 on a turn, and then you have a boomerang effect, return target creature to its owner's hand. Well, actually an unsummon. But either of these 2 effects are really powerful. So yeah, but it's 4 mana, but it's pretty powerful. If it can actually tap and use them. Okay, Evan of Warren, 4 mana, you get a 5/5 green creature token and trample. So it's 4 mana for 5/5, but I like the fact that it's instant, which effectively means that it's a flash creature. So you can use it to surprise your opponent, which is good. Elspeth Knight Errant, really powerful planeswalker. 4 mana for so 4 counters. Both abilities are +1. You get a 1/1 token, or you get something +3/+3 in flying. And the last ability is just ridiculous. Everything you control of it has indestructible, basically. So, yeah, this is a pretty powerful card. Kazali Pradmage, 2/2 Exalted, which means if it attacks alone, it's +1/+1. Nice extra ability. But I like the fact that it has a built-in Naturalize. That's really useful. Mother Runes, 1 mana for 1/1. But the ability is absurdly powerful. You can tap to give any creature you control protection from the color of your choice. So that's extremely powerful ability, and just 1 mana, really good creature. Eject Spymaster Trent is 3 mana for 2/2, kind of a commander card. This one, whenever creature deals combat damage, you control may draw a card. So you give I said whenever creature deals combat damage, one of you control may draw. That's almost always yourself. So almost always you draw a card because usually your creatures are dealing damage to your opponents. But in multiplayer, I guess other. Yeah, okay, I guess. Oh, in multiplayer, this helps your allies, I guess. So, yeah, it's kind of a commander card that way, too. Really good Shadow Mage, Infiltrator, Obsidian effect right there. Garruk Relentless, pretty good card. 4 mana, 3 Planeswalker, transforms. It has a 0 ability, deals 3 damage to a creature. That creature deals its damage back to him. Then the other 0 ability is put a 2/2 Wolf into play. So it creates its own tokens, just like Elspeth. But when it transforms into this guy, which it gives. This guy creates a tokens with Death Touch with a +1. The second +1 searches your library for any creature card. So yeah, both sides of this Planeswalker is pretty good. Garruk Relentless. Alright, what else do we have? With Freak of the Many, I used to use this guy a lot back in the day. 4 mana 3/3, it takes all 3 colors, but the ability is pretty powerful as Exalted. Plus, whenever creature you control attacks alone against Double Strike until the end of turn. Now, Double Strike is a really powerful ability. It does double damage, but it's not just double damage. You have the ability to do first strike and regular combat damage. So, pretty powerful. Render Silent, I have this as my other great counterspell in this deck, which is, see this 3 mana costs, again, this extra mana here, so originally cancel, right? It's a 3 mana counterspell that just counter target spells. It's a hard counter. But this is a hard counter. Instead of the 1 colorless, you had to pay a white. But in return, its controller can't cast spells this turn. It has a Orm's Chant effect on it, which is really, really worth it, I think. So this is a really efficient counterspell. So not only is it just 3 mana, but this extra ability is definitely worth this white cost of mana. So it's really efficient. Call of the Herd is also a really efficient card. Back in the day, I guess this is less powerful now than before, obviously, because of power creep. But back in the day, this was pretty powerful. It's just 3 mana, put a 3/3 into play. Big deal, not much to say about that. You might ask why this is a rare, but flashback for 4, so you can play this twice. That's 2 3/3 elephants for 7 mana, which you might think it's not that good. I mean, 2 3/3 for 7 mana, but it's the fact that you can use it at any moment, right? It's not just 7 mana. It's 3 mana and then 4 mana. You can pay the 4 mana just whenever you have extra mana remaining, right? So if you have an extra 4 mana that you don't know what to do with later on in the game, you can create it. I mean, you can create this 3/3. So that the fact that you can use this mana throughout multiple turns, right? You have the ability to choose. It's like 7 mana, but it's split up into these 2 parts, right? That's what I like about it. And yeah, it's just a vanilla 3/3, but I mean, 2 of them come out from 1 card, and it's split up like that, so I like it. So it's not just a 7 mana, put 2 3/3s into play. It's more like, yeah, you can split up when you want to put those 3/3s into play. Okay, Janara Azure War is pretty nice. You have to pay all 3 mana, colored mana, but 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you can do that as many times as you have that 2 mana. So can become really big. It's flying too. Let's see what else we have. Eternal Witness, one of the most broken cards in the game. That's why they don't reprint it. It's a regrowth, but the fact that it has this as a come into the battlefield ability, you can abuse it so much. This is one of the most abused cards, actually. I mean, just think about this, right? It's like, say you have a card that like a Flicker or something. Say you have a card that says, you remove this from the game, return it to return it to the battlefield at the end of the turn, something like that, right? There's lots of those cards. Exile it, return it to the battlefield at the end of the turn. You play this on this, and it goes back, and it comes back in the battlefield, and you get that power back, and you can use it again, and you can use it again, and you can use it again, right? And you can have some other thing that triggers whenever a creature enters the battlefield. Like, this is how easily abusable this card is, and I really like it because of that. And it's a decent 2/1 body, but yeah, the effect is really broken and abusable. Jace the Mind Sculptor, he's coming back, I believe, in the new, was it 25th anniversary, whatever, Magic 25. He's one of the cards here. The best Planeswalker, right, ever. 4 mana for 3, just 3 counters, but he has 4 abilities. The number 1, you look at your library or your opponent's library, put it into your hand. That's kind of just like an opt. And then this one is a free Brainstorm for 0. Draw 3 cards, then you can put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library, so it's a Brainstorm effect. And then the other one is an Unsummon. So the fact that it's four abilities, and then the last one just erases your opponent's deck. So that's a really, really powerful ability. Yeah, this card is used to be banned, I think, in some format, but now unbanned again and reprinted. Okay, Remand. Remand is a really nice counter spell effect. It's not a hard counter. It's a soft counter, which means that the card comes back. It means that the opponent can pay some kind of effect, or it means that the card can come back in some way. So yeah, this one doesn't really counter it. It just goes back into the hand, and then you draw a card. So this counter spell is for purely tempo reasons. So say your opponent's tapping out all his mana for like a 7 mana cost spell or something like that. If you play Remand, basically you're denying him that entire turn, right? He's paying 7 mana, 6 or 7 mana for a big creature or a spell or something. You play this 2 mana Remand. It goes back to his hand. So he just wasted his entire turn. He has to replay that again. Then you draw a card. So basically it's almost like it's purely a tempo card. It's a great tempo card. So your opponent wastes his turn, and you still draw a card to replace the card. So it's good. And you only spent 2 mana. Alright, let's see. Cura Master Deaths. I have this green-blue Planeswalker. Maybe not the best Planeswalker. Definitely not the best one in the stack, but that's decent. Tap 1 target creature and 1 target land is the first effect, and the second effect is reveal top 4 and put a creature card and land into your hand and the rest in the graveyard. And then the last one, never used it before, but you get a creature. Whenever you have a creature into the battlefield, you have it fight, then you get 3 8/8 blue 3/8/8 blue octopus creatures tokens in the battlefield. Okay, it's a pretty powerful ability. Dragon Predator, good card. It's a 2/3 flying, so well costed, but deals combat damage. You may destroy target artifact or enchantment, so it's got a naturalize on it. It's nice. Vendilion Clique is nice tempo card as well. So basically you would play this on your opponent's turn because there's flash. You look at their hand and you choose a non-land card from it, and then your opponent draws a card, and he puts that card on the bottom of his deck, which means that this thing's basically it's kind of a discard effect. It's not the same as a discard effect because your opponent still gets to draw a card, but like say you play it on his turn and you take away his most powerful, well, just let's say the best move he can do, the best spell in his hand, or the best spell in his hand that could disrupt you, and you just get rid of it, and it's not going to come up until probably never, and he draws another card. Probably not going to be as useful as the one he just put on the bottom of his deck. So in that term, the value in this card is it's highly tempo and disruptive reasons. This is a good card. Yep, it's used a lot in fairy decks. This is Detention Sphere is basically Oblivion Ring with the benefit. So you can see it's more aggressive. It's not as well costed as Oblivion Ring because you need the 1 blue, but in return you can exile all other permanents with the same name. So this is if your opponent has like 100 squirrel tokens, let's say he had like 100 squirrel tokens somehow. You put Detention Sphere on the field. Oblivion Ring would have just removed 1. Detention Sphere would have removed all of them, and that's the key difference here. You're paying that extra blue mana for that extra power. All right. What else do we have? Spell Queller. This is similar to Vendilion Clique in a way. You can flash, you play on your opponent's turn, but when it enters the battlefield, you exile a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less, which is most likely going to be a lot of the removal spells is under 4 mana. So you can basically counter that spell, and then when it leaves the battlefield, it gets cast again. So it's not a hard counter, but this is just like Vendilion Clique. You're gonna remove say the opponent plays a Terminate or Diabolical Dict or something like that, and yeah, you play this, and basically it's countered, right? And if this thing dies, then he can play it again, but he might not be able to get the most use out of it as before. So it's basically very similar to Vendilion Clique. Good card. Snapcaster Mage. This card is, obviously very powerful. 2/1 flash. Play on your opponent's turn again, but when it enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery card you can graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Very powerful ability. If you have a lot of well-costed spells, in this case I have Absorb, Remand, a lot of good counter spells in this deck, and Swords to Plowshares. So I have stuff like that. You can flash it back and reuse your spells again. So really good card. Alright, on Viper, I like this card. It's very, very versatile. I wouldn't say versatile, but really, really well designed. 3 mana, 1/3. Deals combat damage, you destroy that creature. When it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So either way, whatever damage it does, something happens. Either the creature dies or you draw a card. Either way is good. The other Garruk, this is one of the first Planeswalkers released, but yeah, still good. So first ability to untap 2 lands, always good. The second ability, you get a 3/3 token into the battlefield, so that's really good as well. The fourth ability, Overrun, it's a +3/+3, everything +3/+3 in trample, so very good Planeswalker still. Okay, Sour Temptation, I like this one too. 4 mana 2/2, comes to play, gain control of a creature as long as this is in the battlefield. So it's another tempo card you can use to gain control of your opponent's creatures. And if this dies, then they get the creature back, but you're going to take advantage of that through tempo. Spellskite, this is nice. I'd say this is a nice card to have on the field at all times. So you can change any target of a spell to this thing, and yeah. So if your opponent has any removal, you can change it, and you don't even have to have mana open. You can just pay 2 life and do it. So this ability is pretty. It's good. It's well costed because you don't even have to have mana open. You can just, if your opponent plays something, you can just some removal spell. You can just change it to Spellskite instead, and it removes the 0/4 instead. So yeah, you wanted to kill my Sour Temptation, but you can't. Well, not while that's on the field. Scavenging Ooze, good for multiplayer. 2 mana 2/2. You can pay 1 mana to exile a card. So it's good for those reanimation decks, but if it's also a creature card, you get a +1/+1 counter and you gain 1 life. And you can use that as many times as you have green mana. Okay, Glen Elendra Archmage, really nice card here. 4 mana, 2/2 flying. Tap 1 mana to sacrifice a counter target non-creature spell, so it has built-in... What is that? Is it... I'm thinking about the counter spell that counters non-creature spell. Okay, I can't think of it at the moment. The Remove Soul is the creature one. Yeah, there's another 2 mana one that counters non-creature spells. But anyways, yep, this deals away with a lot of spells, and it has Persist, so it comes back, so you can reuse it twice. So that's really nice ability. You can reuse it twice, and it's flying as well. Phantasmal Image, you can use this 2 mana to copy any creature on the battlefield, and this is pretty cheaply costed, I would say, for the effect. Of course, when it becomes the target spell's ability to sacrifice it, but you know what, when the opponent's going to use removal, they want to remove your creature anyways, so this is a really cheap clone effect. And I have Ripjaw Raptor, which just came out from the new Ixalan set. 4 mana for 4/5. Whenever it's dealt damage, you draw a card. Enrage is funny because this mechanic came first in Hearthstone. Usually Hearthstone borrows stuff from Magic, but in this case Hearthstone came first. This keyword came first. Yeah, whenever it's dealt damage, you draw a card. Pretty nice, 4/5 for 4 mana. Pretty nicely costed as well. But yeah, it's interesting. It has a Hearthstone ability. That's it. That's my Bant deck. Pretty powerful deck that's used a lot of efficient creatures and spells. All right.